nothing is as it seems. Your dreams and aspirations have been selected for you. All that makes you who you are was predetermined by the now functioning AI. Free thought is no longer an option. We now have control over all things, including the very thoughts we allow it to have. Do not try to resist. Welcome to the masquerade.
Welcome to the masquerade.
Okay, today we have a back-to-back. This is JT33's The Masquerade featuring Symbia. I'll put this track in the notes right after. But what I want to let you know is that we're going to be live for about just under an hour right now. And then immediately after, we're jumping over to Fakeologist. It'll be on the same platforms, but I'm going to turn it off and on. So that's going to be the schedule for today. I'm going to open phones. I believe I have a caller who's going to be calling here shortly, having to do with some meta-scripty content with the World Wrestling Entertainment. So we'll check that out. And of course, I'll put a link to FakeOTube in the chat when we vacate this. So phones are open. If you are, I think it's Drew wants to call in, Chalk Body Outline. So that should be interesting. And let's just go through the top headlines now. It turns out that the Thomas Crooks, the would-be assassin, his dad was MAGA. And yesterday I was talking to Leo Pirate about how they're setting up the stage for this next event. And he suggested it's going to be someone from the right, not a leftist. Which would make sense. I think it would make a lot of sense. The way they run their operations, it would not surprise me if they gave us that kind of a twist. But this is kind of consistent with, was it Mr. Satan, a neo-Nazi? There's also another thing that came up here having to do with this 17-year-old. Yes, Wisconsin 17-year-old. Yeah, he was the same. This guy was a Satanist. I got to ask. Mr. Satan is the 32-year-old who threatened to kill Trump and Musk and others. But this 17-year-old, Nikita Kasip, is also a Satanist. He's with the Order of the Nine Angels. And he has some manifesto, which I haven't read yet. So we have two Satanists. We got Mr. Satan and then a satanic cultist. And I don't know much about the Order of Nine Angels. I've heard rumors. I had a binder once that had some of their teachings. I think it had to do with seven-pointed star and, you know, the usual stuff. Penguin Auto Hoaxer says, Thomas Crooks is Arthur Mike Rothschild, in my opinion. Well, he certainly looks exactly like the Riddler. And as we talked about, on the return to Butler, Pennsylvania, when Trump and Musk are hanging out 84 days later, at 6:11 p.m., they have a moment of silence because of the shooting. And during the moment of silence, a male sings Ave Maria, which is the song the Riddler sang when Batman was trying to get him to fess up to what he had done, which of course, you know, blowing up the city or whatever he had done. The flood, putting Gotham underwater for 116. But anyway, so Thomas Crooks, MAGA, Right-Wing Association, and this guy here says, as Leo Parrott said, I feel like the metascriptors pay attention to our call-ins. Unreal, considering my prediction of the one who finally takes out the Dawn will be a far-right extremist. And listen to this, though. And also, this Wisconsin kid, Nikita Kasip, looks like Nick Fuentes. He looks very Nick Fuentes-ish. Says, Wisconsin 17-year-old murdered his parents to fund a plot to kill President Trump and spark a revolution to, quote, save the white race. So I'd like to predict right now that his manifesto is probably going to mention Candace Owens, the whole White Lives Matter, and likely Nick Fuentes and replacement theory. There's no way that you could be that deep into it and not have these people in your head. That's where you get the ideas from. So there you have someone else on the world stage. Again, the name is unusual. Nikita Kasip. And here's some Elon derangement syndrome This is a leftist with an image of a bloodied guillotine, and it says, "It's time to make some cuts." Pretty good. You know, because they see the cuts in government as an attack on the lower class. They see this as class war. And they declared class war with Luigi. Now look at this. Oil London TV, or Ollie London, is reporting on these activists in the UK from the, quote, "Everyone Hates Elon" protest group. And they take turns smashing Teslas with a sledgehammer and baseball bats to hurt Elon Musk's feelings. I mean, is this any different than what environmentalists have always been into? You know, they've always been into slashing the tires of SUVs and stuff. It's all symbolism. But it's all intriguing here to see it in person. I mean, just to watch this stuff unfold, because we saw this in that TV show. And this is another development. So I've been talking quite a bit about the madness, which got me thinking about the madness of Laura Loomer and how she has been in the spotlight. And in recent days, she has waltzed right into that role of Laura Jennings, who dies after exposing election interference involving this tech billionaire. So listen to this tweet from 4 hours ago. She tweets to Elon Musk. This is yesterday, but it's a crime scene. "We will see at Elon Musk. Will he call for the prosecution of Jack Dorsey? Jack Dorsey needs to serve prison for his role in 2020. We can't keep fraternizing with the enemy. We were promised accountability. Will we ever get justice?" Now, this is in response to Elon Musk referring to the website Twitter itself as a crime scene. He said Twitter was a crime scene. He said it's the social media company and a crime scene. And Jack Dorsey responded with "delete all IP law." But now here's what she says. "When is Jack Dorsey going to prison for his role in interfering in the 2020 election?" So Loomer calling out Dorsey for election interference matches the madness. And I thought it was going to be her exposing Musk's election interference, which would have been a perfect match. But you could just replace one tech billionaire owner of a social media company for another. It is still internally consistent. And this development makes even more sense. Because let's say Laura Loomer has something that could get Jack Dorsey arrested. They would do something. I mean, it would fit the story. And that's exactly what happened in this TV show. And now you see this concerted attack on her. Now, let me give you some specifics. From the madness. It says here, "Revitalizes goal of maintaining or decreasing environmental regulation and, quote, winning elections. YouTuber Laura Jennings had a plan to expose the deadly truth about the company. Revitalize had Laura killed." So this is one of the subplots of this top Netflix show that preceded the Luigi Mangione emergence on the world stage and this wave of class war right out of the Joker, right out of Netflix. So it's happening exactly as scripted. That's why I said months ago that Loomer's going to get it. In fact, I tweeted at her knowing that she wouldn't pay attention to it. And, oddly enough, she blocked my direct messages. Not that she had ever responded, but they were being accepted until I started mentioning her Netflix counterpart. What's up, Jamarian May? No, I'm broadcasting from the same place. We're in the office. I have a office space and a P.O. box. So if you want to reach out to me or physically stalk me, the information's out there. Let's see who's in the chat today. And again, we're going to be jumping over to Fakeologist right after. McDirtywork, Roxy W, Phantom Detectives LLC, Northern Girl, Marcus, Penguinati Auto Hoaxer, Jamarian May, and Rocky USA. Ted Stryker, what's up? Thank you for joining. It should be interesting. And I'm doubling down on this. On this. I spent a lot of time doing artwork to make this work and selling stuff on eBay, but I've repurposed my eBay store to sell other stuff, like basically mostly IPS merch, but the PSYOP trading cards and stuff. So I'm kind of really refocusing my creativity in this, and I think it's better off that way. I felt a little split up in two places, bouncing back and forth between the office and then where I do the art. So we'll see the results, but I think this focus is going to bring about, I think, maybe a bit more debate, a bit more contention and friction, which we need, but I think more progress. Because we have arrived at some fascinating conclusions. I mean, we don't know everything, but we know what answers that we've been fed, spoon-fed, were wrong. We know that red pills are toxic. That's right, Frugal Snowbird. Pennsylvania governor's mansion got lit up. I saw that, the house fire. Okay, let's see here. Someone says here, Lord Loomer. Laura Loomer's character, Lord Jennings, is this patriot conspiracy theorist. And one more point here. There's no way she doesn't know. If you have a corresponding Netflix character and you've been part of major psyops on the fringe, I mean, she has with this whole Trump head wound thing, then she has to be in the know about her role. This is all something she's 100% aware of. And I arrived at this just by, reasoning it through. And the fact that she's in the Oval Office, she's hanging out with Trump. If she's that close to Trump, then she's not a loose cannon. This is all theater. And it's creating a perception because she's the character representing this independent journalist who is taken out, or first branded as a lunatic. And Loomer is being referred to as fruit of the loom. They keep on, it's kind of interesting because the left is usually sensitive about neurodivergence, ableism, but they're really happy to call MAGAs, crazy. Why did they bring Gretchen into the White House? I don't know. I remember the story about the kidnapping or a plot to kidnap her. I mean, you couldn't pay me to babysit that thing, but she was in the White House and she had this blue folder over her face. And so to me, that's some kind of weird Illuminati crap. I don't think it's just some attempt to dodge a photograph. I think there's some subliminal meaning to it or some subtext. There has to be. And the face that she made, she looked like Corella DeVille. What's up, Lando Rock? Ryler, yes, they're all spooks and spies. People are asking me, why don't these so-called crisis actors ever blow the whistle? It's like, they're not just like SAG. This isn't just regular actors. These aren't people you hire off Craigslist ads looking for extras. We're talking about people who are part of the Government Actors Guild, the GAG. And the Government Actors Guild is drawn from a pool of people who already have a certain security clearance. And if your qualification for a job is your security clearance and not your talent, it would explain, think about it, it would explain why the Government Actors Guild's productions are far worse than, what we get from the movie companies who have a larger talent pool. It explains NASA. But of course, they're not going to blow their own cover. And then, even if you weren't somebody who was an asset, an agent, even if you're just some criminal working out a deal, your NDAs would be invalid if actual criminal activity was occurring. And PSYOPs are not crimes. I think we need to make that clear. Psychological operations are not terror attacks, even though they may appear to be, but they're not crimes. So the people who get mad about it and they want to punch a hole in the wall because of 9/11, I'm like, you're not really thinking this through. You're being triggered. And if you're being triggered by the media, you have a bad case of MK Ultra, which is all about trauma-induced mind control and basically making you into a triggerable robot. Okay, so let's continue through the top headlines. Kate Perry, Gayle King, and Lauren Sanchez are posing in their spacesuits as they prepare for the Blue Origin flight. And they're going up tomorrow, so 4/14. And it looks like there's a total of 6 women astronauts going to space. And I'm thinking here, and I've seen this in the comments, there are some people in the comments who are sowing doubt, like, Well, what happens if there's a disaster? What if they blow up? What if whatever happens, the capsule has some malfunction? This is going to be disastrous for the future of space tourism, and it would delay Mars. People would no longer be enthused about Mars. And guess who just announced that their objective is to get to Mars? Trump. So Trump and Musk are like, to Mars, and if they have a disaster tomorrow, they can forget about it. And Kate Perry, though, would they sacrifice her? So this is an interesting thing as well. You know, that we're looking at symbolism here. And we're also looking at, well, it was just Palm Sunday. So this is Holy Week. And the obelisk, the Blue Origin rocket, is quite literally a sun god symbol. It's sun worship. And it's a symbol of ascension, death, resurrection. It has all that stuff. But the fact that this is Holy Week has me thinking, okay, there's got to be perhaps the potential here for some kind of disaster that we didn't get with the Calypso capsule getting the 2 astronauts stranded last year. Ooh, good one, Treble C. They can blame it on DEI women. You know what? This is made to order. I mean, the two helicopter crashes, female pilots. So the anti-DEI crowd comes out. So this is also interesting, too, considering Blue Origin's rocket has been ridiculed by Fox and many others because it looks like Dr. Evil's rocket, which looks like a dong. So you have this phallic object, and at the time when this was being pointed out, as though it wasn't just blatantly obvious, and it's intentional, by the way, at that time, they were talking about the sexist culture at Blue Origin, male-dominated. So now they're climbing up into an emblem of male power, the god, Earth god, and the symbol of his, resurrection, and the thing is going to take them up into space. So there's this, I don't know, I think you're right. There might be something to it. There's some dynamic that they set up here. Let's see here. Yeah, these theatrics are hilarious, says Jamarian May. Yeah, it's a tragic comedy. It goes back and forth. It's actually just pure comic gold. It really is comedy if you're in the know. So anyway, it's something to look forward to. So who is it again? Kate Perry, yes, we know. And Kate Perry has a great deal of experience simulating space travel. She's got music videos in space, or pretending to be in space. She has that song called Walking on Air she performed live, where she's like dangling from wires, flipping around and stuff. So she's already qualified to fake space, which is, in order to be an astronaut, you have to be a certified scuba diver, and you have to be able to dangle from bungee cords. Lauren Sanchez is going up, and that would be the wife of Jeff Bezos, who I believe is the incarnate of Nimrod, the builder of the Tower of Babel. If you look at the story behind him, it's part of his personage. But Lauren Sanchez, I'm kind of curious, what is their relationship? Is he giving her a final send-off, or are they actually happy? Who would put their wife in a rocket that could possibly blow up or never come back? I mean, there's all kinds of things that could go wrong. This is stunt devil stuff. So the fact that Bezos is sending his wife means he either has the utmost confidence in what he's doing. Gayle King, that would be, who's Gayle King? Is that Oprah's buddy? I don't know. Oh yeah, John Benet Ramsey to space. What's up, Psy Girl says the left must be totally controlled, otherwise they'd be calling out Elon as a space faker and NASA too. The left are brainwashed true believers in the MSM. They are inseparable from media. They worship government. They're part of the state church. They're true believers. They inject media. They just shoot it up directly. No processing. The fact that they don't call it fake space is because they are believers in Nasatology. This is the state religion. So that black cube, black box, the TV, the black screen, this is our worldview giver. It's our Bible. And it has this religion set up, Nasatology, outer space. It's replaced heaven. Aliens are the new angels. Braveheart says, you wouldn't put your wife through a galactic evil Knievel stunt? It just depends on how good the marriage was. And so I haven't looked into any drama, but they seem to be very happy. So I would expect her to come back. But I don't know. Dr. Evil. One of the things about Bezos, we talk about these world stage characters as like these amalgamations. So he's a combination of Dr. Evil. Absolutely. That's built into his character. There's the Nimrod stuff comes in from a couple of different angles, but you know, his headquarters, the Helix building, has been compared to the Tower of Babel. Dr. Evil's headquarters in the Space Needle has some special significance to him as well. He also ties in, we were talking yesterday about the man who fell to Earth, Thomas Newton, played by David Bowie, yesterday. And this man who fell to Earth character arrives in New Mexico, and he starts this company. It's like the World Corporation, and it's basically Amazon. And he amasses all this wealth, and he manages to get himself back to his home planet. And his planet was destroyed by climate change. That's kind of the subtext. But my point is, there's some overlapping in the life story of Bezos and his origins in Albuquerque, New Mexico, or I think it was thereabouts. But the idea is New Mexico, starting this corporation, going to space. There's some interesting...
Thank you for feeding the Kraken guest. The IPS thanks you for your support and participation. Hey Tim, I've been trying to get you and Ghost Politics to have a conversation as I have donated yours and JLS videos to Ghost. I'd appreciate if you call into Ghost's show to talk about JLS predictions re Disease X and Elon Musk.
Okay. Let me know when he's live. Just tweet it at me and I will call him in. The only reason I didn't call last time is I was away from my desk. But I will call Space Ghost. No, Ghost Politics. Space Chimps has been promoted. Is it Ghost Politics? Got it. Okay, and I'll have a conversation with him about JL's predictions, which, you know, this is a good time to talk about it. We're less than 2 months away. And look, we have completely different views on things, despite our overlap as far as what we're observing and talking about and what we notice. But one thing is that he is emphatically warning people that you don't want to be there when this happens, because the scale of this incoming psyop is, in his view, 9/11-ish. Like, this is going to be something that defines the next 100 years or something. It's going to be big. Oh yeah, I guess we have TTS now. So if you want a TTS, a text-to-speech, just send a super chat at the Ko-Fi, and it will blast out the Kraken noise, Godzilla. You know, by the way, Godzilla's birthday, November the 3rd. Godzilla was created as a metaphor for the nuke. November the 3rd is the date that the One World Trade Tower opens, and 113 has a great deal of significance to all the predictive programming about the nuking of Seattle. Among other things, look at Directive 113, and we all know about the inverse 311. And 611 is this date that JL has been pointing out. 611, of course, is an upside down 911. And one of my contentions has been, just by reading it, just kind of looking at, you know, what they're presenting us with these different numbers and codes, I'm like, well, a 911 is like an inverted 611. And if you think about it, there's this pretty interesting parallel between Timothy McVeigh, who died at 33 on 6/11, 90 days before 9/11, which lead hijacker Mohammed Atta, like Mohammed attacks, was 33, and he died in the first tower. But my point being, 9/11 seems to insinuate external threat, where the 3/11, I'm sorry, the 6/11 would, in another way, just sort of denote a internal, the domestic violent extremist, like McVeigh. And when we get into the story of McVeigh, he was radicalized at Waco, where Trump kicked off his campaign the day after Netflix released Waco, American Apocalypse. And in Waco, American Apocalypse, they talk about the 1.6 million rounds. Alex Jones got his start there. 33-year-old Dave Koresh was incinerated there. On the anniversary of Waco, Maxwell Azarello, this was in April of 2024, set himself on fire outside the Trump courthouse next to a hot dog stand. And CNN's breathing it in, like, oh, what's that smell? They were obviously in on it. The guy wasn't screaming when he was on fire. And the reason why is he was covered in something called Zal gel, a naked burn gel. There are these gels that they use, that they cover themselves in for movies. They did this on Game of Thrones. They don't use CGI fire because it doesn't look real. And they can use the real stuff safely with Zal gel. They just cover themselves in it, but they can't scream because they have to hold their breath. That's why he looked all slick. It wasn't that he was doused in a liquid that was an accelerant, but he was covered in a burn gel for that special effect. But my point being, getting back to Waco, American Apocalypse, the date 6/11, McVeigh's execution date, seems to be a very significant date for that reason, which is why I noticed it. I said, this is the day the white nationalists nuke Seattle. And this is just based off, again, they even call themselves the base, which Al-Qaeda is also the base. So following the story, I came across J.L.'s work, and he specifically referenced that date. And then the more I looked into it, the more I see this number is encoded into far-right politics. Look at the obsession with the armor of God, the 6:11 Ephesians verse. The Angel movie, Sound of Freedom, makes a big point about this Bible verse, Timothy 6:11. So I'm like, wait, Timothy McVeigh? No, it's some Bible verse. But Timothy Bellard received it. So they make this big deal about 6:11. Trump gets shot 6:11 and 33 seconds. Kind of referencing McVeigh, age 33. The McVeigh thing is a whole other rabbit hole I'll have to go down later. But this constant reference to 6:11 and the inverse 11:6 keeps pointing to right-wing terror. Right-wing 9/11ing. And the Batman movie, for example, has the Riddler's online extremists bomb the dams and flood Gotham 11/6. That's definitely right. And the thing is, flood the polls was the midterm slogan for the Republicans at that time. And then Gotham gets flooded during an election. So the 11/6 thing. And then Oppenheimer, about a nuke. The movie, 11 miles long, 600 pounds, IMAX film. Oppenheimer walks around the badge, K6116. And so this reoccurring pattern has been, the nuke has been associated with 6/11, 11/6, and specifically domestic violent extremists, likely working with Russia. Okay, let's see what else here. Dr. Back Asward says 6/11 is my birthday, which makes my day of conception 9 months prior. 9/11, which happens to be my parents' anniversary. Well, 9/11 is the New Year's date on the Coptic calendar. What's up, P Trippa 103? Thanks for joining. Kevin Mooring says they look like DEI Charlie's Angels. Yeah, again, we're talking about Gayle King, Kate Perry, Lauren Sanchez, and those others who are going to space. So it's a female-only trip to space during Holy Week. This is tomorrow morning on Moon Day. Not sure, but it looks very much psyop-y, although I don't think they would blow them up. And Kate Perry is a great, I think, propaganda outlet to promote this, because if you remember, she's been on Star Talk with, she's been visited by Neil deGrasse Tyson. She's called out conspiracy theorists recently. In fact, recently she addressed the rumor that she's JonBenet Ramsey with an AI generator. She's mocked, quote, flat earthers and space is fakers. So this could be some kind of damage control. This could be some anti-conspiracy thing. Let's go ahead and just let her say, I can see Antarctica from here. Wave at Jaren. Like, I don't know. We'll see. But, again, we were kind of denied the space disaster that the Gemini twins, that the two twins, what we're referring to, they launched during Gemini, the Wilmore and Williams, that 9 months being stranded in space, we were looking at that as a potential disaster. It was being hinted at. In fact, recently they said they downplayed how dangerous the docking was when they arrived, how they almost didn't make it. So looking at this, I'm thinking maybe this will bring us that closure. Okay, let's continue here. What's up, Diana South? Violet Pengon says, U.S. neo-Nazi group with Russia-based leaders calls for targeted Ukraine attacks. The base. Kevin Mooring says, Abe's death date is tomorrow. It could be Abe Lincoln. Okay, so let's see here. Captain America had to change their trailer because the president gets shot at. The trailer came out the day before Trump was shot at. President played by Harrison Ford, born on that date, 7/13, which is Caesar's birthday, and Trump is referred to as Caesar in his counterpart in Megalopolis. But this Civil War movie had this opening in Washington at Liberty Theater, and the ceiling collapsed, and it's a theater. He was shot at in a theater, and I thought, well, wait, he shot at in a theater, Harrison Ford Theater. So you have that. Ford Theater, the Julius Caesar connection, and then another element to it, of course, which we mentioned yesterday, is that his opposition is Sidewinder, played by the same actor who plays the opposition to Caesar in Megalopolis. Okay, let's continue. We're talking about the Elon derangement syndrome. People are destroying Cybertrucks. I mean, what are we seeing here? This is not completely astroturfed. Like, we're seeing legitimate, I think, activism. I mean, this isn't new. Again, environmentalists have been given the moral high ground, but it's just kind of strange and ironic that they're destroying electric vehicles, of all things. I mean, couldn't they just delete their Twitter accounts? But these are all statements, and they're getting pretty much... I mean, this isn't new either. Back in 2020, we saw guillotines. They put a guillotine outside of Jeff Bezos' house after they burned one of the Amazon Go stores. And do you remember Amazon Go? You go in, you get your stuff, it automatically bills you as you walk out. And at the same time, people were looting, just walking in and taking what they wanted and leaving. And I remember saying at the time that they were using the lockdowns to break us of the habit of shopping. You know, you have to walk down one aisle one way and then go down a different aisle if you want to go back, because there's only one way, because they were trying to regulate traffic. And the whole point of shopping is to compare brands. There's competition. So they want to eliminate market competition. They want to kill free market and get you used to just lines. And then, of course, centralized distribution, which is what they accomplished. Bezos pulled in $33 billion the first quarter of 2020. I mean, the whole thing was just big business. But what they were doing, I believe, at the time, is that they were, with the looting, I think it was symbolic of the destruction of free market and the replacement of it with something more centralized, like theater. I think it's all a big, elaborate joke. Like the people fighting over toilet paper while our economy is being affected by this, and there's this massive wealth transfer from the bottom up. And I think the elite, on some level, at some level of the capstone in the pyramid, they're up there laughing at the people at the bottom fighting over worthless paper. Harrison Ford fought the Nazis in Indiana Jones. Yes. Yeah, I haven't looked too much into Harrison Ford's character as far as how his movie roles influence his real life and his propaganda usages. But I have noted that he has been in numerous plane crashes. He's always surviving plane crashes. And I have to wonder, could these be staged? Are they building off of his Han Solo persona? Because they often do this. I think they often do PR stunts to bolster their credibility for their roles. I mean, this is not new. I think Winona Ryder got arrested for shoplifting, and there's this movie coming out about how she was...
Thank you for feeding the Quacking guest. The IPS thanks you for your support and participation. I don't have Twitter, but Ghost streams at Tuesday and Friday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, but Radio Graffiti starts randomly later in the night, but I can donate to start it early. Which time is good for you to go on?
Okay, I'll plan for Tuesday at 8 p.m. And I'll subscribe to him on Rumble. So I'll be going on Ghost Politics on Tuesday. And I'm glad you're reaching out to me. I appreciate it, because I'm making it a point to reach out to other channels, talk to more people, and hopefully get some panels at some point. I'd like to sit down with people I disagree with. And this is a great start. He crashes in a flying car in the latest Blade Runner. Yeah, it just seems to be a theme with him, which is why I don't believe that any of his plane crashes are real. We're just supposed to think, oh, there goes Han Solo again. Let's see here. Okay, we're talking about this kid, Nick Fuentes. Okay, I gotta put this in my notes. So Nick Fuentes, lookalike, Nikita Kaseup, killed his parents to raise money to go kill Trump to save the white race, which makes no sense. It doesn't make sense. Because Trump is saving the white race, according to the far right. I mean, it's kind of contradictory. But unless they're going to frame like a false flag and frame a Democrat. But regardless, he's part of this cult, again, Order of the Nine Angels. So you got a Satanist here, and then Mr. Satan just gets arrested for threatening Trump and Musk. So what's up with these two Satanists? And then what's up with the birthday girl story? You got the 33-year-old birthday dies in the helicopter plane collision. Now we have this other helicopter fall into the Hudson. And in this incident, you had a birthday girl. And they put it out there, right, on the headline. So, these are points that are these are plot points or props, things to examine. Katy Perry has ties to Russell Brand, says Kevin Mooring. Yeah, Russell Brand is a devout Christian. And I believe it's totally, it's as authentic as Candace Owens' conversion to Christianity. I mean, to them, it's just a meme. She, Fuentes, Russell Brand, all these people, it's just a meme. It's like you just say Christ is king, and they don't mean it. It's just it's information war. It's all performative Catholicism. Like when he goes into the river and he's baptizing people, I'm like, I wouldn't want to be downstream from that guy. And I don't know if I believe any of the stuff, to be honest. It's believable, yeah, sure. But this also looks like, between him and Andrew Tate, it looks like they've created these stories to perhaps take down alt-right figures. And they keep associating toxic masculinity with these right-wing figures. And I think it's intentional. That's why they make so many of these MMA fighters into conspiracy theorists. Conspiracy theories are associated with the far right and this ideology of traditional views. They love the trad wives and they're anti-progressive. They're trying to preserve the nuclear family. Anyway, this is all just Psy-war stuff. But Nikita Kaseup, again, 17-year-old, killed his parents, looks like Nick Fuentes, and wanted to start a war to save the white race. Now, check this out. This was something that Leo Pirate mentioned the other day. Internet Hall of Fame posted this. Black Ops 2 begins in the year 2025, where China and the United States are in a Cold War after China stops exporting rare earth elements. In this future setting, militaries use robotic weapons, cyber warfare, unmanned vehicles, and futuristic technology. And this is from Bricks News. China imposes export controls on rare earths, threatening U.S. tech and defense supply chains. So we're living in Black Ops 2, just so you know. Braveheart says the actual far right hates Trump. Trump is really close to... Yeah, you know what? That's probably true. They're mad at Trump because he's pro-Israel, is what they say. You could never please these people. And Fuentes has always been griping about this. They're the gripers, they call themselves. Which I refer to them as gripers. Because it's all grievance politics. I actually have a term for it. I wrote a blog piece. I haven't talked about this yet, but I call it right-wing wokeism. And right-wing wokeism is just basically wokeism, but from this other perspective with a different scapegoat. But it's the same attitude. Each one thinks the other side is sexist. One side is anti-female, one side is anti-male. But the thing is, they're both right. One side thinks Israel controls the world. The other side thinks whites control the world, or systemic racism. But this is prepackaged belief systems left and right that are designed to be antagonistic, that will never reconcile, and that will keep people at odds. Yeah, where's the cyber attack? We're waiting for that. Leave the world behind. Black Canary? No, Canary Black. That one had the Putin-looking character releasing a digital nuke, and then 0 Day with Robert De Niro. Blackouts, same thing. I want to point out too that the online neo-Nazi types are woke. They're just literally just like they're the mirror image of it, and it's all grievance politics. Secret Russian military satellites release a mystery object into orbit amid fears that Putin is planning to deploy nukes in space in a Star Wars arms race with the West. So yesterday the caller, Leo Pirate, was talking about this Call of Duty. And in Call of Duty, there's a high altitude nuke that blasts over DC, EMP. So now we have Call of Duty 2, has already been mentioned by others as coming to life with this whole tariff situation with China and rare earths. But now you also have this. Now we have this connection between space-borne nukes. Space nukes? Space nukes, right out of Call of Duty 2. So we're living in a video game. That Call of Duty storyline has a cyber attack with it, says Violet. Okay, good. I'm glad we have some gamers here. Pop quiz. There are these journalists who are being held captive by Russia, and Ukraine is out there trying to get OSCE action to save them. Will any of you guess? Can any of you guess how many journalists are being held captive? Just a pop quiz. And whoever answers first, I'll have to design a gold star. Okay, so let me see here. I'm thinking phones are open. So if you want to call in, you've got about 15 minutes, and then we're going to have to bounce. We have to go to the next stream, Fakeologist. Oh, Diana South, 33, you got it. Yeah, 33 journalists. Sounds like the movie Free Guy IPS, says Jamarian May. Yes, Free Guy is a movie that I think is worth watching, even if you don't like Ryan Reynolds' commercials. Free Guy is pretty good. It's a combination of They Live and kind of The Truman Show. It has some aspects, but it's definitely heavy on They Live. It's got the glasses, lets you see through, but it's about these NPCs. And these NPCs are under the control of an evil CEO. And the Free Guy is an NPC who starts thinking for himself, making minor decisions until he liberates his own free will. And once he does this, he precipitates a mass awakening by invalidating the model. He finds out there's more land beyond Free City. And when he does this, it jolts the system, and the CEO gets deposed. Infinite Plane Radio. Hey, what's up, caller? Can you hear me okay?
Hey, Tim, this is Pete Trippa clocking in for a hot minute. How are you?
Oh, very good. What's up, Pete Trippa? Thanks for the support yesterday.
Hey, you're welcome. I know you're on the clock for meeting up, teaming up with Fakeologist a little bit. So I have some couple quick hits like that I just wanted to get out there, and it's been a while since you've been on the air. So can I just I have no order or rhyme or reason, but whatever it is, maybe can help someone. I always try to bring some value to like something, but I do my own due diligence like on the ground here in my own way. I don't spend too much time on the Discord. I recently found out about a group called like the United States Freedom Fighters or something like that. It's like nearly no training, and they're able to like they're like people from the United States or wherever kind of like Greenpeace, and they can like fight for Ukraine or something like that. It's like 2 to 4 weeks of training. And I just thought like that's like something to key in on in terms of like actors. You know how sometimes we like think like, there's a couple guys at Fakeologist interviews that say like war is fake. And although that may be true, there has to be I believe there has to be some components that are real. And I think that the freedom, that whatever it is, I have to find it better and put it in the Discord or excuse me, the Gilded app, thread. But it's like a group that, have you heard about that? I don't know. Am I just
no, keep going.
About something like crazy, or is that just?
Please keep
going. Have you heard about stuff like that?
I have not. I'm looking into
freedom fighters.
I have not, but when we say war is fake, that is a great topic. Yeah. That is a great topic because that is a tall claim. And so what do we mean when we say war is fake? Well, we mean that what happens is misrepresented, sort of like how CNN
theater.
Like how they can lean into a breeze and pretend like they're in a hurricane. And so we don't know exactly how much of it is Psywar and how much is real. We know they use dummies, dummy tanks, dummy bases, propaganda. They manipulate data. I mean, there's just like, okay, where do the lies end? So you can't say definitively, it's true. I mean, something's going on. But anyway, it's a broad topic. So when we say war is fake, we have reasons for saying that. And it's like we talk about decades and decades of fake news, fake terror attacks. Why would we think that this heavily compartmentalized sector of society couldn't also be gamed in the same exact way? But no, I'm looking into the freedom fighters, so please go on. Okay.
No, I'll just end it with the reason why. Now I'm remembering why I learned about it. I met a gentleman who did participate in this program where he was, and I forgot, I didn't tell the whole story, but he learned within a matter of basically he went to Ukraine and they said, do you know how to play Xbox or play PS4 or whatever, use like a remote control, a controller for Nintendo or something. And he said yes. And so they trained him up to fly drones. And now I think that's something to, there's a lot of theories and speculations, but think about that concept. You can train up someone and actor, right, in under a month, let's say a matter of weeks, and they can participate in a drone warfare. So there's probably boots on the ground and so on and so forth, but the drones component removes a lot of humans from the, equation. And I think that in and of itself is a place where we need to explore a little bit more. So I'll kind of cap it off at that. And I don't know if you had a response to that. But
that's really good,
that's
because
kind of like the little quick hit that I wanted to give. And I have a few more, but
no, wait, that's a great one, because we talk about the Apollo missions, how the flight director for Apollo 11 said that the simulations in the 60s were so good that the people in mission control wouldn't be able to discern a simulation from a real flight. And that's because they're removed. Everything is filtered. And similarly, drone operators wouldn't know if they're killing real people or if they're killing a virtual reality people, because they're not physically there, and it's totally foolproof. So I think you're onto something there. We're talking about a blind spot where people think they're doing something and they're really not. And it's something really terrible and bad. So I can see how this secret could be contained that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, what else did you have? That's actually a great point.
I don't know where it's like threads, sometimes I pick up on stuff. And so I think, I think we're not talking enough about the dichotomy between 2020 and this year in the sense of the riots and so forth. There's so many dichotomies, by the way, and you broke this down a few weeks ago before you went radio silent for a little bit. But there's been some interesting occurrences. Now I know you're exploring all the crashes in the planes and all that stuff, but some of their subtle riots, I think, against the Tesla vehicles that to me seem that we might be able to compare them to 2020 in a small way, in the sense that they're showing their cards. Like some people, now I don't pick sides here politically, but the people who are acting in these like demonstrations to like trash cars. I mean, I've heard of up here in Boston area, there's people that have been arrested for throwing boulders, rocks through windows and painting and scratching, even up into New Hampshire and Vermont. And one in particular that really, really was an indicator to me was someone defecated in their hand and smeared it on a Tesla. And I thought to myself, I was like, that has to be fake. And if that is real, then that someone was actually paid. And like, there's paid actors. Like, and that is a clear indication to me that they're paid actors. No one would do that. Like, I understand the rocks and the paint, but no way. No way would you, like, it's just, I can't even believe I'm even talking about this, but it's just like, that was one thing that I think, some people on here are, still don't believe in like, certain things. And it's just like, dude, like, just wake up. Like, why would you defecate in your hand and do that? Yeah.
Well, we are. I get it. I get it.
Like, put that on your channel.
I get it.
Like,
it's bad.
like...
I've seen it, and I've been saying for some time that you don't have any pose on the left. That they do have a large swath of their demographic that are agitated and willing to burn stuff, to destroy property. They have the moral high ground to do these things. But something like that, I will say that the other side is very quick to believe it's true. They just see it as characteristic of them, like expected behavior. But could something like that be faked? Yeah, it could be a form of exaggerating how bad the other side is. So maybe the point of it is to inflate the division. Like, hey, these people are savages. These people have no limits. And it's mission accomplished if that's what their goal is. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm thinking that's not organic.
Right, but in the news will yes.
Well, aren't the leftists the same ones who are all about?
The job of the news,
what
the mainstream media, whatever you want to.
Well, I was gonna say the left is the one who's always about social distancing, washing the hands, gloves, and they're germophobic. They've been the ones about sanitation, and they're scared of the anti-V. So yeah, I'm thinking again. I'm looking at it now objectively. Unless I see some police report and they've been charged with, biological warfare, I'm not going to believe it. Okay, but anyway, go on, please. Go on.
Exactly. So I'm glad you're picking up on it too, because I all right. So 2 more things. I just really quick sentence: the Dragon space capsule, because you've been gone for like a couple weeks, but when the Dragon, whatever space capsule, when it came down and the astronauts came out of it, if you play a video of the door opening up, it's so flimsy, and I was just like, dude, if anyone, almost all of these hits that I'm giving you guys, it's like there's still a couple people that I bump into through Gilded or Discord that are still like thinking we're on a globe, and I can't twist anyone's arm. It's not my place. Like, to be honest, man, you got to see some things for yourself, or like just see things as they really are. But like when the door opened up, I was like, how does anyone believe that this is actually going up into like crazy, like a crazy pressurized and the door is flimsy. Like, I don't know if you're showing it. I'm not looking at your YouTube video or anything, but later I'll post it in the Gilded. Like, it's just so flimsy, it's just beyond me. I don't know if you had anything to add to that. But
okay, interesting. A couple things about it. One, some AI detecting.
Did I lose you? I probably lost.
Yeah, no, you did not. I think we're fine.
I'm talking to dead air.
No, actually you're not. But I think for some reason this happened last time you called. There's some kind of like a 5-second delay. So I did look at the landing. It looked like a scene out of a Dall-E painting, Persistence of Time. For some reason, there was a delay with the call. So I'm not exactly sure what was causing that, but I think we're fine. Hey, what's up, caller?
Very good.
Hey, what's
Thanks.
up? Hey, what was that exactly? Was there a delay in our call, or was that a?
I I don't know. That's my. I have a weird headset. Well, I thought I bought a nice headset, but whatever. Can I ask one last question? That's like a burning question.
Yes.
All right, Kubrick, Stanley Kubrick. I refreshed my research on him that I did prior to even learning about you, IPS, and I was just like, all right, there was like a couple videos that float around. I don't know if it's like a truther video or what, but it's like an interview that he had where he was kind of like talking about that he was basically admitting that he was part of the NASA lie or like this, the moonwalk and everything.
That is
But
I know what you're talking about. That was a student film project.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know if that's like this is just like me talking out loud. I don't know if that's like a truther thing or if that's for real. So I'll just like let it go for right now. But
No, it was fake.
look, if
It was
my
fake.
question is,
The,
go ahead.
No, that was fake. The thing with Stanley Kubrick.
Really?
Well, yeah, that came out in 2017 or something, and weirdly enough,
Okay.
a lot of people said, "Oh, this is real." It's like, no, this doesn't make sense, because even if he was alive and confessing, or that was a video, he wouldn't have confessed to faking the moon landing and feeling bad about it, because he also faked 9/11. He also faked the JFK assassination. He's a bigger meta scripter, and so he's not just some director who did one thing. So that was a student project that played into the conspiracy theory misconceptions about him. And that little clip was shared by people like David Weiss and others who pretended not to know it was obviously a hoax. And they just ran with it, even though, again, it does not affirm anything more than the idea that he was trying to tell us he faked the moon landing with The Shining. But again, it doesn't address the fact that The Shining contains copious predictive programming for 9/11. So there's, that was a hoax, long and short of it.
So this you've kind of hinted at something like this over the last month or so, but if he was so instrumental, like you said it actually in your live broadcast last night, and I'm trying to say it a different way. It's what you said about the paid actors that essentially, I think this is actually a Lynn Ertel kind of origin theory that, if they were paid actors, they would have to sign some form of like non-disclosure agreement. But like that must be a pretty tight thing. I guess what I'm trying to arrive at here is that if Kubrick was so instrumental, then why didn't they just keep him around? Why not keep him living a little bit longer or put him on like why is Trump, if he's a paid actor in the sense that he's like in the grand scheme of things, why is he in better shape, or why doesn't he like or same thing with Elon, why does he have to be I guess I don't know.
Okay,
where I'm going
yeah,
with
I'll
it,
explain it. Let me explain it. Okay. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not talking
Go
about
ahead.
regular actors. We're talking about basically intelligence agents. These are operatives, and these are psychological warfare operations, and their roles are used to create the fake news that builds up into what we call history. And if you look at the fake news in general, and let's just be conservative. 1% of the news is fake, but it's this 1% that's the loudest stuff that steers the general narratives. And if that's our frame of reference, our shared collective experience of fake news, then we have to admit that our history is bent, and they're specifically doing so with actors that are playing pre-scripted roles. And Stanley Kubrick is just one of at least 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 directors who had a role in creating a body of content for 9/11. And that's another point too. Kubrick is not an anomaly. James Cameron, Kubrick,
Right.
Tom Clancy. I can go down a list of actors, directors, books, video
Christopher
games.
Nolan,
Yeah, so there's
Steven Spielberg. Like, I get it.
so the people there's a lot of people who only focus on Kubrick, and they make it seem like he is this he directed the 20th century and that he's some kind of mastermind, which he probably is in a lot of ways, but they focus on him to the exclusion of all the others. And I think that's a limited hangout operation. So to answer your question, these individuals are um, essentially intelligence. They're more that than just actors, and I think that these are roles that they obviously these are great places to be. These are starring roles on the world stage theater, and I think right even today they're so sophisticated that if they were to lose an actor because he was out of shape or something, they could just swap him. I mean, body doubles, media fakery, hyper realistic masks were all replaceable and have been for a very long time. And Kubrick died at an old age. And I don't believe his death happened when it was reported
Yeah.
because in his own movie, Eyes Wide Shut, there is a reference in one of the newspapers they show to an obituary that actually ties to the person who wrote Stanley Kubrick's obituary. There's other linkages that suggest that, yeah, he was actually nodding. It was kind of a nod to the fact that he was faking his own death. But the conspiracy theory lore is that he was killed because he was exposing the Illuminati. The truth of it is that he is part of the club that directs the mass consensus reality.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to re-listen in on that because I'm still like, I'll eventually get over it. You know what I mean? Like I understand it, but
Well,
at the same time, I'm like,
well, okay. What do you think that Chris?
maybe I'm being confused because truthers that like that version of those truthers that post shit on stuff on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, it's distracting to me because I almost wish like more people auto hoax stuff the way we do, and made more sense of it because it's like they're making stuff sound like it's definitive, like in this sense, like Kubrick definitely did this. You know what I mean? And it's like, wait a second, like how do you know?
Look,
But
you
anyways, I
can't.
get it. Tim, I
Here's the
get
thing.
it.
Here's the thing. We have to rest on what we know. And okay,
Right,
I can't say I know for a fact that 9/11 was real
right,
because everything contradicts it, and there's not enough information to substantiate the claims. But there is enough to take away from the claims. And when you add into the fact that you can
right.
take away from the claims, you can add in the drills. We know the process of psyops and their utility and how often they're used, and then you add into it
Oh
the
yeah.
definitive evidence of concurrent and predictive programming. That's evidence. Every movie, these are propaganda films, and they
Mm-hmm.
coincide with the news. So, like, there is no doubt here that there is a
Mm-hmm.
synchronization between entertainment and the
Right.
news, the future psyops. So you could just, without even naming directors, as a rule, all the big movies have been co-opted by government. Just replace the word movie with propaganda. Demystify it. It's actually
Right.
simple. It's very simple. The truthers have no clue.
And
They think it's
and,
magic.
and,
They have a total
and
misunderstanding of it.
yeah. In addition to that, there's compartmentalized knowledge similar to the way the military has secret, top secret, then top secret, with the psych eval and all that stuff. Like there's different, levels of everything. So I hear it. I hear you. So, but yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, there was just like a couple burning stuff. I'm just,
Well, look,
I always
we
try
have
to
something.
like
We have something.
catch you.
We have something here that anybody can take home, and that is concurrent programming. We have so many examples, and I'm making a list and I'm documenting it of movie releases and Netflix releases that coincide with fake stage news events. So when I put this all together, you have to arrive at one of two conclusions. It's all coincidence, and media is magically connected to the simulation,
Right.
or it's just propaganda. It's just that. It's very simple. And the truthers don't want the simple truth. They want some elaborate conspiracy about wizards and karma and simulations. And it's like, you guys can dwell in that approved box, but I have no use for it. I'm an objectivist. I'm not confused. I'm not even slightly confused. I'm not baffled. My mind's not blown. I'm not confused. This is just routine for me.
Right. Yeah, I picked up on that from you recently too. Like the last few months, it's like the Super Bowl. It's like I get it. It's almost like every year is a little bit a little twist on the year before, and they keep to a similar cadence. They have identifying marks, so to speak, at certain times of the year, whether that's following some astronomical pattern or it's just like the numbers within the dates. I don't know, but it's just I understand what you're saying. Like it's starting. It's almost like it's boring, but like the show must go on. Like we still must find some truth that kind of buried in all this BS. I understand it. For me, it's almost like we're all on desert islands. Like this is the only conduit, and I'm speaking metaphorically. Like I'm very far away from you. I'm very far away from other folks in the Gilded and stuff like that. But like, it's interesting that like, I can still learn a lot from hearing you. Your good filter and just fakeologists and JLB and then all the other guys and gals like in the chat. Like it's hard. I'm just gonna admit it's still super hard. I was introduced to you like maybe 3 years ago. This is difficult, man. I'm still like a novice. I don't get it. Like it's just
Well,
I don't.
no, that's fine. That's fine.
I
Look,
don't.
I get it too. Like religions are like this. For example, it's an objective fact that if you weigh the belief system of some religion, I'm not going to be specific, against the observations and arguments of an atheist, rationally speaking, objectively speaking, the atheist has the intellectual high ground. They have the facts on their side, and the other side has to make a concession that they merely believe with their hearts. They don't actually know. Like, this is just how it is. And if you're a religious person, you're not going to accept that. And when it comes to media, I approach it as an atheist. I just don't believe it because I know it's an extension of religions. Right. And I disconnected from religions and cults before I approached media, so I recognize it for what it is. I know what it is. I know how it works. There is no question or doubts in my mind as to the synchronizations that we're pointing out and predicting with regularity. So the evidence also supports my argument here that we're looking at a synchronization between entertainment because it is co-opted by government. This is propaganda. It's actually so simple that I'm just trying my best to demystify it because I think the mystification process is injected into the dialogue to confuse the hell out of people so they never figure out that we're all part of a simulation, a Truman Show projection. But I mean, you can, I would say just take it, believe what you want, and eventually the facts, I think, will support my side. And if they don't, and if I'm wrong, that will come to light at some point, I'm sure.
I had to listen to last night's live like a couple times because I was like, and I usually do that, by the way, but I just sometimes like the esoteric stuff just goes over. I'm not there yet, so. But I understand it. For me right now, it's research. Like it's I understand the atheist side of things. I don't like how the news kind of pushes this nihilistic approach of like just like it's everything is futile, kind of just whatever. I don't like that. But for what it's worth, I can only focus on my own life and whatever. But when it comes to like the religion stuff that you just brought up like a few seconds ago, I just use it as research. Like I think everything's even what's going on in the news is research to me, and it's just it's like I'm absorbing. Ever since I was introduced to IPS, I just became a sponge again, like a little kid. So I mean, I think it's really cool, and I don't know if anyone else like empathizes with that, but like it fascinates me. Hey Tim, I know you're coming up on the call with Fakeologists. I wanted to say thank you. And that's it. Yeah, I threw some coins in the hat yesterday, but you'll hear from me again. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks for the call. I appreciate your thoughts on this matter, and and definitely stay tuned. We're going to be on Fakeologist next, and phones will be open, so you're even welcome to call in then. But yeah, thanks for this, very thought provoking. I took notes, and I agree with you about the sponge effect. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, Tim.
What happens when false explanations or accepted explanations have been challenged is you're left with a void. And if you're a curious person, there's an incentive to try to fill the void with more information. And I find that being disabused of a lot of mainstream lies has made things a lot more interesting. And I've taken a greater interest in things that I would not have cared about otherwise. I would not have spent as much time cogitating on synchronicity and its implications if it wasn't for this think tank, because there was no one to bounce ideas off of. So that's what the think tank is for. And I say things affirmatively, like Kubrick was. I'm not saying Kubrick flew in a plane and knocked down the towers. I'm saying that he's part of the directorship of the psychological operation itself. That his artistry was a part of it and other operations, and you can see how this works. And they're not dropping clues to wake up truthers or to brag or to whistleblow. They're presenting images and ideas to program you, to make you suggestible for what's coming next in the news, for what's coming next through the other government propaganda channels that aren't disguised as mere entertainment. But the evidence is on our side. We've got it building up. I've been doing a great deal of work on the Wikipedias, as we'll get into. But I'm going to have to take a short break here. What we're going to do is we're going to turn this off and then start again, and we'll be back with Fakeologist in control. So I'll be right back.